Hi there everyone, Lars here from Camille's Harem, wishing you, those of you who are here in the States, a wonderful Thanksgiving. And for those of you who are not in the US, still, happy Thanksgiving. Go enjoy some delicious food, be thankful for everything that you have, say hello and I love you to some people. It is a great day. And on this wonderful day to remember our blessings and to think about the good things in life and enjoy some good food, let's talk about an absolutely brutal, disgusting fight between Priest and Gluttony. So, I am back again with another battle analysis from Make the Exorcist Fall in Love. I've been absolutely enjoying this manga, as you can probably pick up if you've seen some of the videos I've already done on this particular story. It's one that I really do feel should get way more attention, because if things are going the way that I suspect they are over in Japan, this is a manga that is in line to be adapted for an anime, and it is going to be the kind of story that really catches people off guard unless they come in earlier and read through the manga, which has got a lot of fantastic things. And really, the fight between Priest and Gluttony, or as they call him in the story, Beelzebub, this is kind of like an endgame fight, but it's only halfway through the series. And oh boy, this one is fun. It's dark, but it's fun. Now, as with all of my battle analyses, I don't just simply look at the fight itself, but I like to talk about what led up to it and its consequences, because any good fight, any fight worth its salt, is not just about the action and the drama happening right then and the brilliant dialogue and the cool moves and cool power-ups. No, that only really delivers, well, it only has payoff if it was built up well, and then is followed through with brilliant consequences showing that this fight actually mattered. No, it wasn't just some cool thing that happened. This was important to the overall story. And oh boy, really, of all the fights, and currently with the arc that's right now playing out against Asmodeus, Lust, I think that the battle with Beelzebub really is still probably the most important thus far, and in terms of world building, it has a massive implications. So let's dive into the build-up for this massive battle between Priest and Gluttony, because it is massive in scale. Oh boy. So Beelzebub basically intends to devour a huge portion of the world. It's unclear if he's doing this as a prelude to the apocalypse, or if he's just doing this because he knows that he can, and he's just pure evil and he does evil things because he can. It's a little bit unclear, but one thing that is clear is that this guy is incredibly intelligent and he plays the long game. And so we're going to see as the manga plays out really what his intentions were. But for the moment, he makes great leaps forward for general evil by reviving the cults of witches across the world, specifically within Europe, using cults to brainwash young people to have them come to worship the devil and to build up evil powers, which then Beelzebub harnesses in order to increase his own magical capabilities, as well as swell the ranks of an evil army, of a demon army and a witches army that he can then use directly against the church. And he uses the witches specifically to target church officials and to assassinate them. So the church is quickly losing manpower, losing influence, and really outright, the world is beginning to be influenced in a very dangerous way, drawing the Vatican's attention towards Europe, while things are set up in Japan for the real coup de grace. The Catholic Church is already strained for resources, and as we learn in this arc, that is also in part thanks to Beelzebub, because he wiped out hundreds of the Catholic Church's best exorcists, one of them being Mother Teresa. You basically have a warrior Mother Teresa in this manga, and you know what? I just want a spin-off of warrior Mother Teresa fighting against demons, because this just seems like the most hilarious, the most epic thing to me that you could possibly put into a story about Catholics. Why hasn't anyone else done this yet? Yes, it's not actually the real Mother Teresa. It's Mother Rosa. But it's supposed to be a homage to Mother Teresa if Mother Teresa was a battle nun. Well, so she went in to stop Beelzebub after we learned that Leia, the adorable nun from the last arc, was the one who allowed Beelzebub to enter into Germany and into Eastern Europe and begin devouring its populace. He got really close to unleashing a full-on plague of destruction upon Europe, but the Catholic Church managed to intercede in just the right time. Unfortunately, it comes a little bit late for Leia, whose entire family and village gets wiped out, and she is tricked into eating her own brother. Ugh. Well, Mother Rosa comes on in, sacrifices herself along with all these other exorcists. Only Dante, her pupil, her star pupil, manages to escape the carnage by rescuing Leia, the sole survivor of this huge massacre. And ultimately, the only reason why they won was because the angels came down in force, summoned by the exorcist, to drive Beelzebub back, and he was satisfied with his meal, with the destruction of so many souls. This already lets you know that you are dealing with a real monster right here, and he, as I said, is playing a long game. He is tricking the church. He is building up an army. He's got this massive plan for a huge feast, a disgusting feast of bodies and souls, and yet it feels like he is still playing at something else, especially when later on in the fight with Priest we get some interesting hints about what happened with the archdemons, the ones who personify the 7 deadly sins. But by the time that we really get into the fight proper, we now realize a few things. The Cult of Witches has been revived, and some very important exorcists, including Michael and Dante, have been sent to stop them. We learn that Dante has an old friend who was once part of the Catholic Church, Virgil. And it's neat right here. Dante and Virgil, the Inferno right here, the descent into hell. And instead of Virgil and Dante working together as they did in the Divine Comedy, Virgil is working with the demons. As we learn, he is playing all different kinds of demons off of one another. His core job is not just to revive the Cult of Witches, but to return Beelzebub's stolen finger to him, so that way the demon can be completed and have full power in order to enact his schemes. So Dante and Virgil are battling it out. Beelzebub's fingers return to him. Leia has come to Japan to get her revenge against Beelzebub for everything that he had done to her and to her family. And the fight is on as a great spell is enacted to consume Japan and transform it into this smorgasbord dish. So, Priest leads Emery and Leia and Barbara into the thick of things. He's got to bring along Emery because he still has to protect her from Satan, and so, well, we now enter into just a truly horrifying scene as all of Tokyo, which is the epicenter of this new plague, has been transformed into this weird meat dish kind of a thing. And all of these monsters and demons are brought up out of hell to just whittle away at the strength of the exorcists as they try to get to the epicenter and fight Beelzebub. So they meet up against Cerberus. There are Nephilim, which are brought, these giants, which are the byproduct of angels and humans getting together and doing the mattress mumbo. And one of the Nephilim is meant to destroy priests, or at least weaken priests seriously. This Nephilim's name is Golem. However, Emery, using her powers as a femme fatale, as one of the original demons, is able to not sexually seduce Golem, but seduce him on over to their cause by offering him a chance to prove himself and to get out from under the abusive thumb of Beelzebub. This turns out to be a very important alliance right here because Golem can provide tons of strength. The Nephilim were the revered warriors and protectors of humanity at one point, according to the lore and the old Catholic canon interpreted here within this story. Well, Leia and Barbara get on ahead to fight against Beelzebub, and here we get to see their powers on full display. Leia is able to use alchemy and the blessings of God to basically recreate the powers of an angel, but only for 5 minutes, because alchemy does require a cost. It's not just a gift given from heaven. You can use, she's basically taking whatever blessings heaven is willing to give to her, and at the cost of her own life force, amplify those blessings into truly angelic power, giving her a chance to fight Beelzebub one-on-one. And Barbara, using her own powers, is able to confuse Beelzebub within the curse, and they're able to use various sacred holy items. These guys are bringing out everything, all of the goods from your typical Catholic battle fair to try to defeat this great demon lord. And it actually goes fairly well for a time. They're able to catch Beelzebub on the back foot. However, this guy is a tricky demon, and he manages to get a hold of Barbara and hold her captive and use her as collateral to get Leia to back down and to reveal also something else, where the feather of Asmodeus is. Because when Priest first fought Asmodeus, by summoning the power of Raphael, the archangel, he was able to purify part of Asmodeus, and now the Catholic Church has a relic of a redeemed demon. If Beelzebub can take that and eat it, he can assimilate those powers into himself and basically redeem himself from his own fallen state, at least for a time, and become a full-fledged angel once again. And this guy's one of the heavy hitters. Should he become an angel with evil purposes, he would be absolutely complete, and there's no telling what he could do. Perhaps this is truly the endgame that he had in mind all along. So with Barbara's life on the line, even though this could mean the destruction of the entire world, Leia does the stupid anime protagonist thing. I absolutely hate this. When anime protagonists are all like, I can't allow my friend to die. Sure, I'll let the evil person get what they want, and I'll just trust to hope, to faith, to friendship, that everything is going to work out in the end. And oh boy, I really do not like that trope. And one of the nice things is that this manga doesn't really play into that, because even though Leia and Barbara are saved by Priest right after Leia's coughed up all the goods and Beelzebub is able to steal the piece of Asmodeus that he needs in order to ascend to become a full angel, well, this particular fight between Beelzebub and Priest is not a pretty thing. It is indeed quite disgusting. So, Priest uses his own special powers to form a barrier around Imri, Barbara, and Leia, and also heal them of the corruption and evil that is infesting and consuming Tokyo. He also charges Golem to protect them. Then he goes and he fights against Beelzebub. Beelzebub changes into his true demonic form as this emaciated fly made of just wisps, who then, I love how this fight plays out, because you basically have philosophy versus scripture. This is an interesting contest right here. Faith versus knowledge. Which one actually will win out in the end? Beelzebub presents a very powerful argument about why sin is actually necessary, how it's natural, how it is just a part of human nature, and if you fight against it, you reject being human. And if you reject being human, well then, what are you? You're then not what God intended you to be. Whereas, as far as Priest goes, is you are human, and to be human is to struggle against weakness and to overcome your sin and your natural vices. So which message is going to win out here? This is then exemplified in just the absolutely brutal no bars hold fight that they have, where they are tearing each other apart. And since Priest is able to regenerate thanks to his heavenly powers, and Beelzebub can restore himself by eating Priest, this is an absolutely disgusting fight, which then leads to this grisly climax where Beelzebub's like, you remind me of the Son of God, and if that's really what you're striving for, then I will give that to you, and proceeds to crucify Priest on a plate, and then eviscerates him and preps him for dinner. This is where Priest finally pulls out all the stops and manifests his true power as the one chosen by God to save humanity, and he crushes Beelzebub. Beelzebub is wiped out in this moment where you have this demon who's, as I said, he's been pulling out all of these stops. He's using all of this great demonic power. He is raising the dead to consume Golem and to destroy him. And he is using magic to break down the barrier that the priests used to save Imri and the others. And all of just the creative ways that he uses to basically murder people is on full display. And when that is finally put up against the power of God, he is just crushed. And so he uses his gambit, consumes the piece of Asmodeus that he needs, and ascends to become a full angel. And then he uses God's own powers against priests, beating him back. And then he's like, look, boy, you are just a human. You have deep desires. Gluttony is about satisfying those deep desires, even though you know that sometimes they are wrong. And, well, it's because we're all hypocrites. And I actually love that. I love this idea that gluttony is the embodiment of hypocrisy right here. It's a neat little twist on one of the 7 deadly sins, and definitely deserves its own philosophical discussion, I would say. This is where things get pretty metal and begin to wink at some horrifying things later on down the road, where Beelzebub enters into Priest's mind to draw out his deepest desires, his full hypocrisy. And Beelzebub actually isn't able to really draw that out, because when he enters into Priest's world, his inner world, his inner heart is basically hell. He is a tortured soul because of everything that's happened to him, what he's been subjected to, what he's been deprived of. There are so many things that Priest wants to enjoy about life that he just can't have, but he denies himself that because his entire life has been dedicated to being a warrior for God. And so he's just nothing, his entire view of life, his own soul, is nothing but a massive, ugly scar, which has distorted everything. And Beelzebub's like, holy cow, what is this? And then we get the hint that there's someone else, there's another demon which has been influencing priests in a very subtle way. Could this be Satan, or could this be someone else? We're not yet entirely certain. But when they realize that Beelzebub is in there, it's not priest which banishes Beelzebub, but it is this other demon that knocks Beelzebub out of priest's mind. To which then Beelzebub is like, my boy, after realizing everything that priest has been through, Beelzebub is like, my boy, you have my respect, given how young you are, everything that you've already gone through, what has become of your mind. You are already living in hell, and yet you continue to persist as a warrior for God. You have my respect, which is a huge thing to say for this character, considering how he's treated everyone else up until this point. He just always continues to call people food, 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 and yet finally to the priest, he is, you are someone. You actually have a name. You are an individual, and you're someone that is worthy of respecting. That is a pretty big deal. But then as he goes in to kill Priest, Virgil brings himself and Dante right into the middle of this battle. And Dante quickly turns his attention away from what's been happening with Virgil and steps in to help save Priest. And then we get an awesome tag team between Priest Priest Dante and Leia, as Leia's finally healed enough to get back into the fight, and you get this amazing tag team of all of them using their own powers against this angelic version of Beelzebub, all of them empowered by the grace of God as paradise is now pouring into hell. Things are going crazy. This is basically the apocalypse. This is Apocalypse 1.0 playing on out with the entire world up for grabs. This seems like it could be the very end of the story because it's so over the top. who these characters are, their arcs, their philosophies, everything is being put on the line, is being challenged by Beelzebub. And what I love is how Beelzebub then acknowledges, as he sees them fighting, he's like, this was what was always intended by us angels who rebelled against God. We were meant to be a brotherhood, working together to attain our end goals. What those end goals are, we don't exactly know just yet, but he sees in them, he sees in the Exorcist, what the demons originally were, this united brotherhood fighting for this glorious cause. And he has this moment where he's taken back and he addresses Lucifer, a demon that we haven't yet seen, and he's just like, this is what it was always meant to be. But it's interesting because Beelzebub also recognizes that he's become so corrupted by his own evil that whatever those original goals were and those original personalities have been lost. He is no longer an angel. He's just wearing an angel's face. And so it's just a neat moment. So he's like, okay, fine. Like, you guys have proven yourselves, but I refuse to be beaten. I'm a demon. I will use everything at my disposal and destroy you. And as he draws them in for a final trap, Barbara one last time uses her curse of plunging people into darkness should she take off her mask and look at them. And at that one critical moment that allows Dante to seal Beelzebub into a pillar of holy salt, Priest comes in, disarms him pretty literally, and then Leia charges, is impaled by these blades that are coming out of Beelzebub, and then she bites him in the neck and rips out his jugular, killing his body and forcing him back into hell. And I love how Beelzebub is like, well, Lars, you're the only one who can say that she has eaten the flesh of a fine gourmet, so tell me, how does it taste? She vomits up his body and is all like, you taste like junk food. All you ever have done is gorge yourself on stuff. You were never a good connoisseur of food. It's a brilliant diss to him. And then as she's passing out, and she's taken back to a moment, she's basically on death's door after being impaled, and she sees her family. She sees him back in her memory, and this time, rather than letting him into the house, which was what initiated the great curse and the great plague that killed everyone in her village, she closes the door, rejects Beelzebub, and turns her back on revenge. And the door closes. The priest and Dante have to come and save her. And with paradise now flooding on in, and with Beelzebub banished, hell recedes, and paradise on earth sweeps across Japan. Japan is saved. Everyone, not a single soul in Japan is lost, thanks to God's grace. This is a momentous occasion. Beelzebub ends up back again in hell, completely stripped of his powers and standing before Satan. And Satan is like, well, you fought pretty well. And Beelzebub is all like, oh, don't patronize me. He then says, you're up to something. You truly are up to something. Because one of the things that led to my defeat is that you brought in Virgil. Virgil brought Dante. And then Virgil also tricked me with my little pinky finger, stealing some precious power from me at the very last second. What game are you playing, Satan? And Satan then reveals he has had a plan all this time to weaken Priest and overthrow the general order, which is something that you would think would absolutely delight Beelzebub, and yet something about Satan's admission makes Beelzebub ticked off, where he says, if I could, I would kill you right now. To which Satan says, this is why I waited for a priest to defeat you, to tell you what my brilliant plan is. So something is going on right here. The witches were never meant to actually serve Beelzebub, and said they are serving Satan for whatever his end goal is. And it's very clear now that his plan to weaken Priest is in full swing. And it's very likely that Imri is being used in a way that she herself doesn't even realize. Satan is playing a very masterful game, and now we know that there is someone else that is deep within Priest's mind, corrupting him. We see this right after the battle, as everyone is recovering. The friends are all back together. A new generation of exorcists is rising before Dante, and Dante realizes that they actually do have a chance to defeat evil. Yet, deep within Priest is a seed of evil, the hypocrisy that Beelzebub saw, the scarring, that Beelzebub saw, this deep place within Priest's heart that only the demons seem to know about. No one else does. And yet, an amazing little bit of healing happens. Priest can't rejoice in what he's done. This miracle has saved the world. Beelzebub has been defeated, truly defeated this time, and made weak and impotent. And yet he can't rejoice because he doesn't feel any love for the world or the people in it that he has just saved. Until Emery tells him, I want you to take pictures. Show me the world the way you see it. And he's like, the way I see the world is absolutely disgusting. And yet, when he looks through Emery's camera and sees the people that he's saved, sees the young boys that he's saved, the boys that were being devoured by Beelzebub right at the very beginning of the battle, he is shocked to see people in all of their variety and beauty for the first time that he can truly remember. And he finally sees Emery not just as a charge that he must protect, but as a beautiful young woman, and as his companion, as his charge, and someone who has been trying to form a relationship with him. Things begin clicking, and for the first time in his life, Priest feels like a human. And it only took having to face against one of the greatest evils of all time, and having his own hypocrisy exposed before him, to begin changing as an individual. Now then, we see that there's this demon that's trying to corrupt the way that he sees the world. And we see the influence of Satan and all this other stuff that's just going on. Priest has got a lot that he's got to figure out. And yet, after this battle, because of the things that Priest has had to go through, because he's been able to prove his faith, but also at the same time confront his humanity in a way that no other battle has yet had to do, not even the fight against Asmodeus, at least his first fight against Asmodeus, he is waking up to who he really is and realizing that he is a human full of wondrous feelings surrounded by all these other incredible humans, and that it is possible. The thing that Dante told him at the very beginning, in the first chapter of the manga, that he needs to fall in love. He needs to fall in love, and by falling in love, find the people and the things that really matter to him, so that way he can truly protect them and find the beauty of this world. So that way he's not just seeking to die, be a zealot for God who will battle against Satan, save the world, and then die in the process, but rather be a true hero, a true human, and realize what God's plan for all of his creations are, which in the end game is meant to be happiness and love. And so this right here, this battle, even though this is like midway through the story, like it almost feels like the end game, because it is such a revolutionary moment for Priest and Priest's ability to step forward. However, this is also going to expose Priest now to a lot of things. Now that he's accepting his humanity, this now opens himself up to the vices of humanity, which will be explored in the next arc. But it also exposes him to all the potential happiness that humanity can have as well. And that is going to be the central theme of the next arc, and his movement towards potentially facing and overcoming possibly the biggest thing that has truly held him back from being a normal person, or at least being as close as you can get to being a normal person with everything that he's been through. So this fight right here, this fight was fantastically set up, actually really back in the second arc, with the introduction of Leia and Barbara, the discussion about Beelzebub, what the power scaling between different demons were, leading up to the grand scheme that Beelzebub has with reviving the cults of the witches, distracting the Catholic Church, then initiating his plan in the East, trying to transform all of Tokyo, and even out into China, just become this massive feast that he could just devour all of these souls and flesh, become super powerful, get Asmodeus's feather, transform himself into an angel, and then open the way for who knows what. Beelzebub got very close to destroying the world, and it was a hard-fought fight using all of the powers that have been introduced to us in the story thus far, and also revealing just how much backstabbing is also happening amongst the demons themselves. So this is a moment where Beelzebub easily could have won. It took the backstabbing of Satan, the backstabbing of Virgil, the interference of Dante, and Priest having to go all out, and Leia sacrificing a lot of her body and her mind in order to defeat him. And as far as Leia goes, Leia is finally able to move on. On death's door, she meets the spirits of her deceased family and friends, who forgive her, including her brother, whom she devoured, forgives her for what happened, even though he's all like, yeah, I'm not forgiving you. But really he is by saying, you need to live. And so for Leia, it's not like oh, it's so teary-eyed, everyone hugs and we're going to get all our emotions out, but rather, Leia, like, we don't hold you responsible for what happened. And if you are truly sorry, and if you truly loved us, then you will continue living, which Leia does. Which is awesome. I'm looking forward to when Leia and Barbara really return and again become a presence within the story, because they are a great duo. But this also sets up another thing, because in this fight, Leia, despite being focused on destroying Beelzebub, picks up on subtle clues that Imri is indeed a demon. And as we'll see in the next arc, reports that to Cardinal Heisenberg and begins a series of events that will have drastic consequences for Priest and Imri, as well as the plans to seduce Priest. So this fight is a huge game changer. It's also something that when you read it for the first time, it will churn your stomach a little bit. Maybe not as much as some other manga out there, which are definitely made to just make you horrified at what can be done to the human body. But this is it was for the first time I read it, a really hard read, because it's so brutal, so over the top, so intense. And it's one that you got to go back and read again and again and again just to realize everything that is being poured on you in this fight. It feels like an endgame battle, but it isn't. We're only halfway through the story, if really even that, because of how each arc just has been getting longer and longer. So maybe we're really only at the third waypoint through the story, and oh boy, what a turning point it has been. Again, this is just a really awesome story, and if you want to see just what a mangaka can do in drawing a fantastic fight, this is it. If you pay attention to all of the different panels and whatnot, it has all of the things of like the significant turns, the parrying, the thrusting, the using of magic and special attacks at the right moment, not just spirit bomb, magical circles, stuff goes kablooey. There is, if you pay attention to it, all of the strikes of parrying, dodging, slashing, thrusting with magical powers and with weapons. They actually are using real fighting forms while using all of this great magic. And that is something that I think for writers, when it comes to writing good magical fights, it shouldn't just be pew, 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 spell, 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 like what a lot of people do. That actually gets really over the top and really boring really fast. Instead, it's very interesting when you see magic and magical weapons utilized in realistic ways, which sounds really weird to say, but when you see characters using actual battle stances, battle forms, and using their powers in interesting and realistic ways, given the parameters of what you've set within your own magic system, it makes a fight way more believable and way more enjoyable. So that's my breakdown of this battle right here. Whew boy, that's a whole lot to cover, and really, like, there's so much more I could talk about. But then we'd be here for like 2 hours. There's a whole lot in this. So again, if you want to know more, I highly recommend reading Make the Exorcist Fall in Love, especially to get to this point in the story, because it is fantastic. And if this manga does get an anime adaptation, this battle right here, if done well, will be one of the sickest, craziest fights that we have seen animated in quite some time. So, with all that being said, if you'd like to have more writing insights, reviews, analyses, recommendations, please watch our other videos here on our channel. You can also support everything that we do by checking out the books that we've published or subscribing if you haven't already done so. We're getting so close to reaching our goal of 500 videos within 5 years and 5,000 subscribers, the holy trifecta. Oh, wouldn't it be amazing if we were able to do that? You can help us get there. But otherwise, thank you so much for joining us on this incredible, sometimes horrifying journey that we call writing. And again, happy Thanksgiving, y'all. Tschüss.